I did cut them both. Subtle foreshadowing. Hello, I'm Jacinta from Past That Plant, and today we are going to put up one of my Fiddle Leaf Fig Propagations and take some more cuttings from that same mother plant. It is almost Christmas and I've officially finished work for the year. So I'm in my Christmas red dress and I have my cute little Harrods mug filled with iced coffee because it is 35 degrees today. So let's get into a Christmassy propagation and repot. So it is currently December and I took this cutting in January. So you can really see how much the roots have grown over the past year. It is well and truly ready to pot up, so we'll do that shortly. This is the section where I took the cutting from. You can see it looks much better than the rest of this leggy plant, where the foliage is missing at the base. There's all these new branches growing out, so it'll continue to grow bushier compared to these two stems, which are single leader stems, which just means they're growing up off one main stem and the leaves are just coming off to the side, which is why it's looking quite leggy. This one here does have some new growth, so I'm not sure if I will chop that side yet, but I will definitely chop this side. You can see I'm still having issues with the foliage going yellow, although there is new growth as well, but she's just ugly, so let's chop her right back so she grows beautiful and bushy like this side has. To start with, I'm going to take one large cutting and I'm going to cut it all the way back to where this cutting was, so they're even. Once I've taken the large cutting off, I will decide if I'm going to do the other side and then how many propagations I'm going to make out of the one stem. So let's do that. So here we go with the first cut. So I have my first section. I will cut this down more. Now I need to decide whether I'm going to cut this one right back as well, because it does look quite silly now. Do we think? I think it does look silly. I do like the new growth though. I'll think about it as we work on this one. So this cutting is obviously massive, and if I tried to propagate it, it would likely just rot in the water. One of the reasons why is because there is so much foliage on this cutting, and all this foliage takes up a lot of energy and nutrients, so the plant will try and keep the leaves alive instead of focusing on growing new roots. So you only really want 2 or 3 leaves per cutting. To start with, I will take off the leaves that I don't want to keep, including this yellowing one, and there's a tiny one here which never grew properly, so I'll get rid of that as well. I'm going to pull away the little leaf sheets. I know I said 2 or 3, but we've got 4. That should be fine. New growths happening from where I had previously chopped it. So I've got 3 sections which I'm going to put in water and propagate. But before I do that, I'm just going to let them callus a little bit. So you can see the stems are quite wet and raw, and you want those a little bit dry before you put them in water, and that helps stop them from rotting. You only need to leave them a few hours or overnight, and that's enough for them to form a little callus and protect themselves. I was going to wait until tomorrow and decide, but who am I kidding? Let's just cut this one off as well. And the reason I was hesitant is because it has some cute new growth, but it looks silly. Let's cut it too. Ready? So I've cut off some of the extra foliage. I probably need to cut more. No, I will. Get rid of these leaves as well. You may feel sad cutting off some leaves, especially if they look healthy, but if you leave them on, you may lose the whole cutting, so then you're losing the leaves anyways, so may as well chop them off before the plant starts to suffer. Let this one callus as well. Now this pot looks way too big for this plant, but we know there's 2 stumps in there, which will hopefully grow quite quickly. So you can see they're both quite wet and raw. You can definitely do gloves whilst you're doing this because the sap can irritate your skin, make it a little bit itchy, but I really just get in there and go for it, but you don't have to. So now let's put up the existing propagation, which is well and truly rooted, and it keeps growing algae because I have it in clear glass, compared to this cutting is much older. You can see the roots don't have any algae growth, and that is because it is in amber glass instead of clear glass, which keeps the water cooler and stops algae from growing. I definitely need to get some more amber propagation vessels, but alas, let's pot up this one. I don't technically make my own potting mix, but I am going to combine 2, an indoor potting mix and an aeroid mix. I find this makes the perfect potting mix for a ficus, which the fiddle leaf is. And if you're thinking it looks a little bit small, it's because it's the Bambino variety. This is the pot I'm going to put it in. It's not massive. I think a scoop of each will be plenty. A little bit more of the aeroid. Trying not to get as hot as the begonia repot, but it is 35 today Celsius, so I can't open the windows. And there is an air conditioning vent right above this table, which freezes me. And then it's also really noisy, so I'm just sweating it out, so I hope you appreciate it. But ignore me if I go red, we'll just say it's festive red. Anyway, we're just mixing this up. So it looks like this. So now, as always, I'm putting a little mesh round in the base of my pot, and that is to just stop all the potting mix falling straight through. So just half fill it with your potting mix. Bit of a well, and then fill around the outside. I just don't have the patience for the scoop by scoop. I will need to make some more as well to fill it up a bit higher. So it's standing up on its own, which is great, and this is the perfect size pot for it. So I'm just going to put it in a bowl of water. I'm going to top water it and let it soak from the bottom. This is one of my biggest tips for transferring a cutting from a hydro situation to a potting mix. These roots grew in water, so if you put them in a dry environment and leave them there, they're really going to suffer. So you want to make sure that that potting mix is wet, wet, wet. So let's do that. So I have my trusty bottom watering bowl. I'm just going to pop my plant in. It should take quite a lot of water because the potting mix is dry. Good chance to push down the soil a bit as well. I did forget to shake it, shake out the air bubbles, but watering it kind of does the same thing, so it'll settle the soil. So there's water coming out the bottom, and we're just going to leave her to soak for a little bit and then pop it in the decorative pot. While that's soaking, I'll do a little cleanup. All the bits that we've cut off. I know it looks quite alarming, and that some people think that if you look at your fiddle it'll lose its leaves, but that really shouldn't be the case. There's a huge one behind you. You should be able to move them, and they shouldn't lose all their leaves. They should only fall when you cut them off. I water mine every 10 to 14 days, and they like to dry out in between watering. They do well in a fairly bright spot, so the one behind you is in a south facing window, and I'm in Australia, so it gets the morning sunlight. I fertilize monthly in summer and spring, and less in the cooler months. I try to keep the leaves clean by going in with neem oil monthly, or at least wiping them down. They can be prone to spider mites and thrips, so it's a good idea to mist your plants as well to help prevent pests like that. If you've got red spots on your leaves, this is called edema, and it means you have likely overwatered your plant. They can be prone to root rot as well, which is why they need to dry out in between watering. If your foliage is falling off and it's brown and a bit soft, it is likely root rot, so watch out for that. Usually it is better to underwater your plants than overwater them, so err on the side of caution. When they are thirsty, the leaves will usually start to droop a little bit, so you can look out for that. Just letting the excess water drip off. Now I can pop her in her little planter. Very cute. So I'm going to put this on a sunny spot, not too far from where it was propagating, just so we don't shock it with putting it in a potting mix and then also changing the environment. But that's it really. The only thing I haven't shown you yet is what the cutting looks like once it's calloused, but I will add that in as well. Hello, it's the next day and my cuttings have calloused, so let's put them in the water. So you can see that the ends are now dry or calloused. They are no longer wet and raw. This really helps to prevent rot in the stem when you water propagate. So my 4 propagation vessels. Just going to fill each one with water. I'm lucky to live somewhere that has soft tap water already, which is great for plants, but if you're not, you can use whatever water you usually use, if that's filtered, distilled, etc. Now I don't usually do this, but I thought it would be interesting to test some rooting hormone. So I'm going to dip 2 of my cuttings into the hormone, and I'm not going to dip the other 2, and we can see if it makes a difference in how quickly they root. It does say on this that you are supposed to dilute it and then plant them into soil. I'm not going to do either of those things, but we'll see how it goes anyway. So going to dip one that I'm putting in coloured glass, and also one which I'm going to put in clear, just so we know that that's not a factor. And then these 2 cuttings I'm just going to pop straight into water. We've got our 4 cuttings propagating in water. 2 have got rooting hormone and 2 don't. I've got some in coloured glass and some in clear glass, and I'll put them all in the same spot. So let's see how they go. So you can use clear glass, coloured glass, you can use ceramic, plastic if you prefer. I like to use glass. These 2 have been repurposed. This This was a mister and I broke the top, but I thought the glass section was pretty. And then obviously these ones are meant for propagation, so cute little glass mushrooms. So you can use any size or shape, but there is a few things to keep in mind. You don't want your cutting falling into the water, as then it may rot. So you only really want the bottom inch or so of stem in the water. You don't want any foliage submerged in the water, so you may have to cut off the bottom leaves. I find it's best also to have a gap between the base of the cutting and the base of your vessel. You'll read different things online about changing the water. Some people say change it daily, some people say never change it. I am someone who rarely changes the water, but I do top it up often. You want to keep an eye out on the water levels and make sure that the base of your cutting doesn't become exposed. Adding fresh water also adds fresh oxygen, which helps them grow. The only time I completely change the water is if it's starting to smell a little funky, if there's a lot of algae growth, and that's it. As I said, I usually don't use a rooting hormone, so you definitely don't need to add one either. Once they do start to root, I like to add a liquid plant food monthly, which is what I do for my hydroplants and my other propagations. They also do well with higher humidity. You can either put them in a humid spot or you can mist them. I love to mist my plants, so that's what I'm going to do. Now let's pop them to my sunny. And yes, that is the other one I planted. Cute. So that is how you chop, prop and pot up a Fiddle Leaf Fig Ficus Lyrata Bambino. All in the one video. But that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. The previous one from January, of course, Marvin was in it. He's been gone just over 3 months and I hate it. It still makes me very sad. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it, but he is still here. He's in this little urn. Yeah, so still always with me on the shelf behind me. I hate it. If you're going through pet loss or grief as well, I'm really right there with you. But I love him and I miss him. So to start with, I'm going to take one large cutting. I'm going to cut it back all the way to where the previous, can you even see that?